So this is EE698G. We are now at lecture 7 and we have started looking at phase detector architectures. So a phase detector, abbreviated as PD, takes two signals as input. Let's say this is in1 of t and in2 of t. Both these signals have the same frequency. Right? As you will see later, it is not necessary that both the signals need to have the same frequency. Some phase detectors can detect phase error as well as frequency errors. But for now, because we are using this phase detector in a delay lock loop, we are dealing with two signals that have the same frequency, just that they have a delay or a phase error between them. And this phase detector has an output which we are calling as VPD. This is a voltage output, and we relate the average of the VPD to the phase error. And then we plot average VPD versus phase error. And in that plot, we try and identify the monotonic range in that plot, because we would be able to use this PD only for a monotonic range in the PD characteristics. We try to make comments about where our locking point could be. We also defined a small signal gain parameter for the phase detector, called this as KPD. What is the expression of KPD? It is the derivative of average VPD with respect to the phase error. Right? And this is same as the slope of the average VPD versus phase error plot. We have seen two types of phase detectors so far. One is the multiplier based PD, another is a sample and hold based PD, and then we were looking at the characteristic of a XOR based PD. So in an XOR based PD, we feed both inputs to the two inputs of an XOR gate, and we observe the average voltage that you will see at the output. Now in the class we talked about how we'll assume that the XOR gate is connected between VDD and ground, which means the VPD voltage is going to swing only between 0 to VDD. So let me quickly show you the case where the phase error is a small positive value. So let's say this was my in1. And this is into. Then the VPD output goes high here, remains 0 till this point because both in1 and in2 are 1. Then it goes high here again, remains 0, goes high, etc. etc. Okay? Now I can calculate the average by looking at one period in the VPD output. So you see that the VPD output is periodic with respect to this duration. How much is this duration? This is T naught by 2, where T naught is 1 clock period. So now I can write an expression for VPD average. This will be equal to, so your output is high for a duration of delta t, where delta t is the distance between in1 and in2. So you have delta t into VDD plus the remaining duration is T naught by 2 minus delta t into the value during that phase. And how much is that value? 0. The whole divided by the period T naught by 2. Right? So this is anyways, the whole quantity is 0. So I'll remove it. and you have T naught by 2 appearing here. So you get 2 VDD into delta T by T naught, but we also know that delta T by T naught is equal to phase error by 2 pi. So I'll replace delta T by T naught with the expression phase error by 2 pi, and 2 will cancel, and I'll get my VPD average as VDD by pi into phase error. Okay? And then we have to find out till what value of phase error this expression is going to hold true. Right? Now imagine that you are taking this into signal and then you are pulling this into in this direction. You are moving it in this direction. Right? As you move into in this direction, you'll see that this distance is going to increase. Right? And then this delta T will also increase. Right? Which means the VPD average is also going to increase in proportional to delta T. Right? And that is the expression that is given by this VPD average is equal to VDD by pi into phase error. As your phase error is increasing, the average is going to increase linearly. Now, at what point do you think this stops becoming true? T naught by 2, right? Because the maximum it can reach is when this edge reaches this position, right? Then your output is going to be 1 throughout, right? Which means you have hit VDD. Any further movement, your output can only become smaller, right? So after phase error equal to pi, we don't expect this result to be true, right? Till then, we can expect this result to be true. So now let us sketch for a case where your phase error is a small value greater than pi. Right? Phase error is greater than pi and just slightly greater than pi. And we'll sketch the in1 and in2 for this case, and we'll analyze how the VPD average is going to look like. Any questions so far? Okay. So now your in1 is here. In2 has to be delayed by more than t clock by 2. So I'm sketching it like this. Right? Now your VPD is going to go 1 here. This will come down, remains at 0, goes high here. At this point, both in1 and in2 are 1, so it comes down, goes high again, comes down, etc. Now, if I'm observing this waveform for a very, very long time, right, you will see that the behavior here is never replicated after this instance. Right? So if I were to observe this VPD for a very, very long time and then take an average, this simply becomes an initial transient which can be ignored. Right? So we will look at the steady state average VPD voltage, which means we will try to find out the average after this point. Right? You can, of course, like I said earlier, this is the pattern that is not repeated. So if you wanted to take the average from this point onwards, that is also fine. It's totally up to you. Now, if I were starting from here, what is the duration for which I need to consider the output for? If you have a confusion, you can always stick to t clock. Right? That will always give you the correct result because in1 and in2 both have the same period t clock. So if I were to observe only in1 and in2 for this duration, you'll see that this window is getting repeated over and over again. Right? So if there is any confusion, you directly observe for the window t clock. I mean t clock or t naught, whichever variable you want to use. Right? So now I am trying to observe the VPD output And let me also mark delta t for you. From here till this point is your delta t. Right? Rising edge in in1 to the rising edge in in2 is my delta t. Right? Now, can you tell me what is this duration and what is this duration? Or what is this duration? This will be equal to delta t minus t naught by 2. Right? What about this? This is equal to t naught minus delta t. How do you answer that? Because you compared with respect to this. So this gap is t naught minus delta t. Right? This is equal to t naught minus delta t. You will see that this is also equal to t naught minus delta t. And this gap is going to be equal to delta t minus t naught by 2. Right? So in this particular case, to look at the periodicity of the VPD output, it is sufficient if I look at it till this point. Okay? If you do it for t clock also, if you look at for the entire duration of t naught and calculate the average correctly, you will still get the correct output. But given that I know that the VPD is periodic with respect to this period, which is t naught by 2, I'm directly going to write the expression for that. So now my VPD average is equal to, for the duration of t naught minus delta t, this is equal to VDD. It's 0 for the remaining duration divided by t naught by 2. So I'll have 2 times VDD minus 2 delta t by t naught into VDD. So I can simplify this. This is, I can take VDD outside. This is 2 minus phi error by pi. Right? So when phase error equal to pi, what is the result you get? Equal to VDD, right? And when phase error equal to pi, what is the result you get here? VDD. And we said that pi is the point at which you have to switch from this equation to this equation. So there is continuity in our expressions. Right? Okay. So one more calculation we want to do is to check the value for phase error lesser than 0, negative phase errors. Let me give you the waveforms. Your in1 looks like this. In2 has to now happen before in1. Right? So your in2 has a waveform that looks like this. And this distance between them is delta t. Can you plot VPD and calculate the average VPD with respect to phase error? So once you have obtained the result for this, now you will be in a position to sketch VPD average versus phase error from minus 2 pi to plus 2 pi. Alright, so your VPD will look like this. Etc. And the VPD average, how much do you get? Just delta t into VDD by t naught by 2. So you still have the expression VDD by pi into phase error. Right? Is this expression right? The phase error value, we expect to see it to be negative here because phase error is lesser than 0. Right? But you see that the VPD average is not a negative value. It is still swinging between 0 to VDD. right? That's because the phase error being negative information is not being is being shown directly in terms of the information that you get here, right? So you can represent it correctly by putting a magnitude of phase error here, right? Your phase error is negative, but your VPD average is not going negative, right? So now I can plot the overall VPD average versus phase error plot. We know that it starts from 0, and for the value corresponding to pi, it's reaching VDD. And then from there, it again goes back as it hits 2 pi. Similarly, for the value corresponding to minus pi, you'll again get a figure like this. Similarly, at minus 2 pi, it's going to look like this. Okay. So first question, can you identify a monotonic range for this? It could be either from 0 to pi or from minus pi to 0, pi to 2 pi, etc. Right? The monotonic range that you can get is pi. Right? Next question, where do you think should be our locking point? Zero, 2 pi, etc. So let's take the point 0. Do you think this is a good locking point?
No.
Why not? Because the slope is becoming positive and negative on either sides of this, right? So if you go and try to lock your system here, right, a slight positive phase error, you might, let's say, you might have configured this slope to be in negative feedback. And if you slightly shift to this side, suddenly your loop is seeing positive feedback, right? The characteristic of the phase detector is changing around the 0 point. So 0 is definitely not a good locking point, right? You're risking making your negative feedback system into a positive feedback system. So then what can we do? You want to lock it to pi by 2, right? So you're saying pi by 2 because it is bang in the middle of a monotonic range. So now that argument is nice, but we will have to do something to shift this characteristics down. Now it is possible to do things in the loop such that you can shift the characteristic down, but a very easy way to shift it down without changing anything else would be to change the supply voltages of the XOR. Right? If your XOR had supply voltage from minus VDD by 2 to plus VDD by 2, then this whole curve is simply shifting down by VDD by 2. So right now, this point is VDD. If you had used an XOR gate, where the supply voltage is from minus VDD by 2 to plus VDD by 2, then you are taking this curve and simply shifting this curve from minus VDD by 2 to plus VDD by 2. So let me mark it on the same scale. The curve will look like this, where this is minus VDD by 2 to plus VDD by 2. Right? And then you can again go and do a quadrature lock where you're locking the two signals with a pi by 2 phase error. Right? And this is true for a lot of the PDs that you will study. If you wanted to shift the locking point, it is possible to either introduce a voltage level shift or add an intentional phase error, add an intentional phase offset somewhere in the loop and then shift it. Right? So these nuances will become clear as we move forward. But for now, I want you to simply focus on being able to plot a VPD average versus phase error and then identifying a monotonic range, a possible locking point given the characteristic. And what is the next step that you want to look at? KPD, right? Can you plot KPD versus phase error? What is the slope of this curve? This is equal to VDD by pi. Slope of this portion? Simply minus VDD by pi, right? The same result is true even if you shift it exactly as is. So then your KPD versus phase error plot from the duration between 0 to pi is simply VDD by pi. And then from pi to 2 pi, this becomes minus VDD by pi. And the same results extends on the negative side as well. So now let me give you some problems to work on. You can try this out as homework. So you have to plot VPD average versus phase error when both in1 and in2 have a pulse width equal to T0 by 4. In the waveforms that I have drawn so far, we have assumed that both in1 and in2 have the same pulse width and it's equal to T0 by 2, right? A duty cycle which is exactly 50%. What if the pulse width is not exactly 50% of the overall period? It's something else. So as an example, you can try plotting it for T0 by 4. Right? This is for the XOR based PD. Now, as a continuation of this, right, assume that in1 and in2 still have pulse width of T0 by 4, but I'm modifying the circuit a little bit. Let's say I take in1 and then I pass it through a circuit like this. Right? Have you seen this configuration before? This is a D flip-flop whose Q bar is connected to D. Right? What does this circuit do? It can divide the frequency by 2. Right? If your in1 had a period of T0, this point will have a period of 2 T0. Right? So let's say I pass in1 through this. I take into and I pass into also through a similar mechanism. And their outputs are then passed through an XOR gate. And this is what I'm calling as my VPD. Right? Now, what would be your definition of phase error? If in1 and in2 are separated by delta t, right, your phase error is still equal to 2 pi by T0 into delta t, where both in1 and in2 have the period T0. But however, the signals here have a period 2T0, but this is internal to the phase detector that you are considering now. Your phase detector circuit is this whole block. Right? So you will have to keep this in mind when you are calculating the VPD average. Okay. Now a third question. You can plot VPD average versus phase error. Again, this is for the XOR PD. When the supply voltage is from minus VDD to plus VDD. Instead of 0 to VDD or from minus VDD by 2 to plus VDD by 2, directly giving you minus VDD to plus VDD. You can treat this as a separate question, and you can assume that the duty cycle is 50% for this part. Okay. One more question. This question we can solve right now. At least I'll give you some hints about it. So you're using an XOR based PD where, let's say, in1 and in2, they don't have the same duty cycle. Right? Let's say in1 has a pulse width of T0 by 2, whereas in2 has a pulse width which is lesser than T0 by 2. Right? Can you sketch the, you can observe what happens for phase errors from 0 to pi. Can you sketch the characteristics during this region? For an XOR based PD. You're free to discuss and then sketch the characteristics. So I'm going to first sketch in1 and in2 with the same phase. In2 has a smaller pulse width. So let's say it goes down at this point. Now if I look at the VPD, you see that VPD average is not 0. Right? So I have started out with a case, let's say case 1, where phi error was equal to 0. Right? And we see that VPD average is not 0 even though the phase error is equal to 0. Right? Now let me consider a different case where phase error is slightly greater than 0. So I'll copy this figure. I'm simply going to move the in2 signal to this side by a little bit. Right? Now corresponding to this, I'll have a small pulse here, and this pulse will change the shape like this. Right? So I'll have a small pulse in this duration, and this pulse has now changed the shape like this. Now if I look under the area under this pulse, that is same as the reduction in area for this pulse. Right? Which means in this overall duration, if I were to calculate the total area under the VPD curve, that remains the same. Right? From here some area has been removed, but the same area is appearing here. So my average VPD does not change from this figure to this figure. Right? The average VPD is remaining constant. And for how long will it remain constant? For how long? Why T0 by 2? If my phase error, so think of this phase error increasing, right? At some point, this edge will move past this edge, right? So till that happens, the difference in the pulse width, right? Till my phase error becomes greater than the difference in the pulse width, the average VPD is going to remain the same. After that, you will begin to see some differences here. right? So effectively, if my previous curve between 0 to pi went from 0 till VDD, so I'm plotting, of course, VPD average versus phase error. Right now, even for 0 phase error, there is a value which is non-zero, right? And this remains constant till the duration where the pulse width till for that delta t is greater than the difference between the pulse width. And after that is when it will begin to increase like this, right? So you have a region here where even when there is a small difference in the phase error seen at the input of the phase detector, the output voltage, the average of the output voltage is not changing. What comment can you make about KPD in this region? KPD remains 0, right? So even without knowing the rest of the details about the loop, we can take a guess that KPD being 0 is not a very nice thing to have, because we want to be able to detect small phase errors. Okay. So looks like we are running into issues when the pulse width of the two signals are different, right? And you also have to analyze what happens when both the signals have the same pulse width, but it is different from 50%. That you can do as a homework and come back to me in the next class. All right. Now we move on to the next phase detector circuit. Yes.
The KPD for the ZOR also we have switching from like the slope is zero.
The value is the KPD is constant, but it is non-zero, right? In this particular case, KPD itself is 0. All right. So now we look at a slightly more sophisticated phase detector using an SR latch. Right? So I'll consider a NOR based SR latch. Let's say these outputs are O1 and O2. This is your set or the S signal. This is the reset or the R signal, right? Let's first quickly look at the NOR to truth table. 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0 and 1, 1. When both inputs are 0, what is the output? This is equal to? So this is the truth table for a NOR gate. 0, 0, 1. For all the other outputs? 0, right? So the key thing you have to remember now is that even if one of the inputs is 1, the output is going to be 0, right? I need to know, even if one input is 1, I don't have to check for the other input. I can directly write the output as 0. So using this table, we will now derive the truth table for the SR latch. So 4 possible combinations. We will first start with the last row. My S and R is equal to 1. So for the first NOR gate, one input is 1. Therefore, the output is 0. Same for the second NOR gate. And if I feed these as input here, we see that this is a consistent logic, right? So when both S and R are 1, the output is 1, 1. So can you quickly fill this table in? Follow the same approach and fill this table. Let's say S is 1. If both of them are 1, this is 0 and 0, right? Yeah. So now S is 1, R is 0. So this NOR gate is easy to figure out first. This output becomes 0. And you have 0, 0. This is 1. And all the states are now consistent. So for 1, 0, I have O1 as 1, O2 as 0. Now we try for 0, 1. So easy to figure this one out. This becomes 0. You get 0, 0 here. This becomes 1. And this goes as 1. 1, 1 will anyways give you 0. This is also a consistent solution. And I have 0, 1 as the output. The last case is where I apply both as zeros. So now I cannot determine the output of this without knowing whether this is a 0 or a 1. And the same is true for the first NOR gate as well. So I have to first start with some initial condition and then check if this is leading to a consistent solution. So let's assume that this was initially 1 and this was equal to 0. That means this is 1 and this is equal to 0. Now it turns out this is 0, 1 can give you 0. Here you have zeros and zeros. This can be 1. So this is a consistent solution. Now what if my initial state was the other way around? Meaning this was 0 and this is 1. So that would mean this is 0 and this is 1. So here I have 0 and 1. Because of this 1, the output has to be 0. In the other path, I have 2 zeros. Therefore, the output is 1. Right? So what should I write here? Is it don't care? It just depends on the previous value. Right? So it is holding the previous value. Right? Whatever is the previous O1 and O2, when S and R are 0, the same value is being held consistently. So this is in a hold state. It holds the previous value of O1 and O2. Right? And whenever you studied an SR latch like this previously, you would have heard that this particular condition is a forbidden state. Right? It should not happen. So why is this a forbidden state? Looks like I'm able to get nice 0, 0 output here. Okay, so one reason is a lot of times when the SR latch is used in circuits, in digital circuits, it's often used as a memory, right? A memory module where they call O1 as Q and O2 as Q bar, right? Now, once you call like this, you see that when the set is equal to 1, when you are setting the memory, Q is 1, Q bar is 0. When you are resetting the memory, that is when your reset is high, then Q is 0, Q bar is 1. If both of them are 0, meaning you are not setting or resetting, it is holding the previous value. And what does it mean to say I'm setting and resetting the memory at the same time, right? And it doesn't make sense to have both Q and Q bar as the same value. So this is one reason. But more importantly, there is one more reason here. Assume that you are going from the 0, 0 state to the hold state, right? Let us quickly see. That is, you are going from SR equal to 1, 1 to SR equal to 0, 0. Let us quickly see what is the value that will be held. Right? So, you have your S and R signal. Previously, both were equal to 1 and then they are becoming 0. Right? So, your SR is 0, 0. You want both of them to go to 1. But now, if you zoom in around this region, you will see that you can't. It is very, very difficult, near impossible to guarantee that two signals are going to 0 at exactly the same time, right? Even if you route the net slightly differently, right? One extra via in the path, maybe a half or a 1 micrometer extra distance in routing, some minor differences in the capacitances associated, self-capacitance of the driving stage, they are both going to see different delays, right? Then there are two possibilities. Your SR might initially go to 0, 1 and from there it can go to 1, 1. Or this might initially go to 1, 0 and from there it will go to 1, 1. Now if it followed this path, then the output you will see is going to be 0, 1. Right? If it followed this path, then you are going to see the output as 1, 0. Right? So a lot of times when you go from the 1, 1 state to the 0, 0 state, that means from the forbidden state to the hold state, your output might be a function of the noise in the system, of mismatches in the system, etc., than the actual input. right? That is an uncertainty which we do not want in digital circuits. So that is one of the other reasons why 1 1 is called as a hold state. Sorry, a forbidden state. Because if you move from 1 1 to 0 0, from forbidden state to hold state, your output is more likely to be a function of mismatches and noise in the system than the input itself. Is that clear? So because of these reasons, this is called as a forbidden state. But this is for your information, because as you will see shortly, we are going to have the SR equal to 1 1 state also when we use this as a phase detector. Okay, so now we know what is the characteristic of an SR latch. Let's now use this as our phase detector, right? Yes.
Just based on that forbidden pattern, if I do move from that state to any other state, so it's imperative that I'll be having. So should I have?
It's not imperative that, so if you move from the forbidden state to either the set or the reset state, then there is no confusion. The output is well defined. Problem happens if you were to move from here to this hold state, right? So if you have a transition that goes from here to here, then you shouldn't be utilizing the output value for any other computations till the memory has been set or reset.
Then I need to restart.
You either need to set it or reset it. Yes. So now we want to use this as our phase detector, which means we have to connect in1 and in2 and then figure out which of O1 and O2 I should call as my VPD, right? So let's start with this net being in1, reset being in2, and as you'll see, we have to call, when this is being used as a phase detector, this is called as up and this is called as the down signal, right? So now you have in1 and in2 at the input, no confusion, same as what we have been doing so far. At the output, we have up and down, two signals. So we are going to sketch the characteristics and figure out how to define our VPD. Whether VPD should be equal to up or whether VPD should be equal to down or something else altogether, right? So let's start by assuming we take a phase error which is slightly greater than 0. So this is my case 1. So I'll have in1, into, so and we need to see up and down. So please sketch this. So this was your set, reset, O1 and O2. After you are done with this, you have to plot the second scenario where the phase error is slightly smaller than 0. Here also you will have in1, into, up and down. So please give it a try. Feel free to discuss and then figure this out. Okay, let's try this together. So till this duration, both S and R are at 0. So it's holding some previous value which we don't know. So I'll start sketching from this point onwards. So at this duration, at this instant, S is 1, R is 0, which means up will be high and down is 0. Then both S and R are 1, which means both of them has to go to 0. Then you have R equal to 1 and S is equal to 0, which means you are in reset state. Up continues to remain at 0, down becomes 1. After this point, till this duration, this is again the hold state. So it holds the value and then it comes down. So similarly here up goes high, S is 1, R equal to 0. So up is high, down is 0. Then both of them are 1. So the value comes down to 0. So they remain 0 till here. Then it's the reset condition, R1, S is equal to 0. So down goes high, up remains at 0. Then both of them are in 0, 0 state. 0, 0 state corresponds to hold. So we keep holding the value till this point. And then you have set going high, reset becoming 0. So your up is set and down comes low. And this pattern will now continue. Right? So once you have so much, you can look for one periodic window and then calculate the average. So I'll assume this is the window that I'm looking at. Okay? So let us consider this window. So clearly this window is going to repeat over and over again from this point onwards, right? Now, if this gap was delta t, right, that means this gap is also delta t. What is this pulse width? Delta t, right? And what is this pulse width? That is equal to the clock period by 2, right? So now our delta t information is present in the up signal. It looks like we should make up as our VPD value, right? Let us also, before we make that conclusion completely, let us also check what happens when your phase error is lesser than 0, right? So as before, in this case, we are holding something. I don't know what the previous value was. So we'll start by looking from this point onwards. So first you have reset equal to 1, set equal to 0, which means the down has gone high and the up remains at the same value. Then you have S and R equal to 1. So the output is 0. Then you have set equal to 1 and reset is 0, which means up goes 1 and down becomes 0. And then you are in the hold state. Both S and R are 0. So we keep holding the value till this point. After this, reset is 1, set is 0. So down goes high, up comes low. Then you have both of them in one state. One state, which means both are at 0. Then you have the set state coming in. So this is the output. And then you have the hold state coming in. Therefore, this is held till here. And then this gets reset. This goes high again, etc. Right? So if I'm looking for one period, let's say I look from here till this point. Right? So I'm looking at a period from here till this point. Now, what is this distance? This is equal to T0 by 2, and this distance is delta T, right? So in the second case, it looks like the down signal has the delta T information, not the up, right? So if phase error is greater than 0, we should be looking at up signal. If phase error is lesser than 0, we should be looking at the down signal, right? So I could of course consider putting a mux in the path and then sense the polarity of the phase error and then choose either up or down. But now I need another phase detector to measure if phase error is greater than 0 or lesser than 0. Right? You understood the problem? I still need to think about another circuit that can measure if my phase error is greater than 0 or lesser than 0. Or I could consider bringing a new signal here, which is some sort of combination of up and down. Right? Up has the information under certain conditions, down has the information under certain conditions. Can I think about a combination, maybe a linear combination of up and down, because linear combinations are the easiest things to do. such that that new signal now has the information about delta t.
Or
You want to take OR. You want to take XOR. Okay. Let me give you something even simpler. Right. So right now I am simply looking at a mathematical operation. What if I do up plus down?
it will be positive.
Sorry?
It will be positive always.
It will be positive always, right? Whether this signal will, if phase error is greater than 0, this has delta t, this will simply have t naught by 2. Phase error lesser than 0, this will have t naught by 2, and this will have delta t information, right? But because I am doing a addition, delta t is present as is. I am not able to differentiate whether this delta t is positive or negative, right? Then what can I do?
So
You want to do an XOR? We can consider doing it in a minute, but mathematically what? Subtraction, right? So instead of doing up plus down, if I were to do up minus down, right? Now, whenever the phase error is lesser than 0, down has the delta t information. Because I am doing up minus down, it becomes minus delta t. Right? So that way I can quickly determine whether the phase error is positive or negative. Right? So the suggestion that you gave to use an XOR, why don't you try it and then let me know in the next class whether it works. Right? And if it is working, then the next question I would have is it better than using XOR alone as a phase detector? Right? Because you can use XOR alone as a phase detector already. Right? Now, if I use SR latch followed by an XOR is something better in the performance compared to the earlier case. Right? And, yeah. Okay. So now in either of the cases, my definition of VPD is simply going to be up minus down. So VPD average will be up minus down the whole average. Okay. Now let us quickly do the calculation for VPD average in this case. So VPD average is up minus down the whole average, which means it will be average of up signal minus average of down signal. What is the average of up signal here? That is delta t by t naught into VDD, right? Minus what is average of the down signal? That is VDD by 2. That is equal to VDD by 2. So delta t by t naught can be replaced as phase error by 2 pi. So this becomes phase error by 2 pi. I see that VDD by 2 is common for both the fractions. So I can take VDD by 2 common outside and I get the expression phase error minus 1. Yes, yes, correct. Phase error by pi minus 1. Okay. Similarly, let us do the calculation for the second case. What is the average of up? That is equal to VDD by 2 minus average of down. That is delta t by t naught into VDD, where delta t by t naught is same as phase error by 2 pi. Right? Anything else that I need to do here? This is being done for the case where the phase error is negative. So, which means whenever I am substituting the value of phase error here, I'll be putting a negative value, right? But that information is already captured in this negative sign, right? So, I can put a mod here. And then I can take VDD by 2 as a constant outside. I'll get 1 minus phase error by 5. Alright, right? So now we have expressions for some small positive value of phase error. We have an expression for value VPD average when phase error is slightly negative. Now let's quickly consider this case again. We want to make a guess about for how long these expressions would be valid. Phase error greater than 0, I know this equation tends to be valid. Till what point? Is it till pi by 2? Is it till pi, 3 pi by 2, 2 pi, etc. Right? So if you had to take a guess, right, what would that guess would be? Delta t lesser than t naught by 2, right? And the guess is coming from the fact that as you keep moving this to this side, based on the equation, you expect that the VPD average is going to increase linearly, which means as you keep moving it to this side, you are expecting this delta t to increase linearly. And right now you are suspecting that is true till the rising edge of this crosses the t naught by 2 case, right? A very good first estimate. Now you make an assumption or an estimate like this, it's very easy to verify. We simply have to draw the diagrams again and check for the expression. So why don't we do that? So case 3 is for phase error just slightly greater than pi. So your in1 looks like this. And in2 is greater than, in2 has occurred after a delay greater than t clock by 2. Then you have to plot up and down. Again, just to remind you, this is your set, reset, O1 and O2 signals. Please try this out. Did you get something like this? So you can see that the up signal that occurs the first time is different from the up signal that is going to occur after this. Right? Now we are interested in the steady state waveforms. So I'll consider this as a transient and I'll look at the period from after that duration. Right? So I have to now identify one period. Let's say I am looking at this portion. Right? This cycle that I have identified, this is going to repeat over and over again. Now, we know this whole duration is delta t. This duration is t naught. From here to here is your delta t. Right? Now, what is this duration here? That is t naught by 2. Right? This is your in2 signal. This directly corresponds to this duration. Right? So for the in2 signal, this is t naught by 2. Therefore, this will also be equal to t naught by 2. What comment can you make about this duration? That is equal to, this is equal to t naught minus delta t. Right? Now, if I'm comparing this with the previous figure, right? If I compare with respect to this, in this figure, delta t was increasing. Delta t was present in the up signal, right? And this signal was t naught by 2. Now what has happened is, up signal has the information about t naught by 2 and the down signal has the information about minus delta t. Right? So when you do up minus down, you would still get the delta t information. Now you can write out the expression. Now my VPD average is equal to up minus down average. Average of up is equal to VDD by 2. Please give me the expression for average of down. That will be T naught minus delta T into VDD divided by T naught. So this is VDD by 2 minus, I have T naught by T naught, that will give you VDD, plus delta T by T naught into VDD. I replace delta T by T naught with phase error by 2 pi. And let me take VDD by 2 outside. Right? So let me first write this expression. That will give you phase error by pi. Now VDD by 2 minus VDD becomes minus VDD by 2. Therefore, you will get minus 1 here. Right? And we want to compare this to the expression that we plotted corresponding to this case. Right? You see that it is the same expression. So turns out this scenario is true not just till phase error equal to pi, it is true till 2 pi. Right? So this particular case was true for 0 lesser than phase error all the way till 2 pi. Right? But guessing that it is true only till pi is a very, very good assumption. Right? And then we have to verify. So it is okay to have incorrect statements in your initial assumptions. Don't stop there. You sketch out the waveforms, verify it, and then you will be able to know for sure whether that initial estimate was correct or not. Okay, so now you are in a position to be able to sketch VPD average versus phase error. So let me quickly sketch this. Let's say 0, pi and 2 pi. How does the waveform look like? When phase error equal to 0, what is the expression we have? So you get, it goes from minus VDD by 2 till when phase error equal to 2 pi, where do you get the value? This will go till VDD by 2. So you get a result that looks like this. And this is true on the negative side also. Minus pi minus 2 pi. You will have the curve that looks like this. Right? Now what is the monotonic range here? So this is the largest range we have seen so far. You are getting the result from 0 to 2 pi. So you have a 2 pi range. Any questions on this?
It should not be desirable, but it's enforcing positive.
Sorry?
Enforcing positive feedback as a phase error is increasing, as VPD is increasing.
Okay, so now your question is, does it mean that if I use this VPD, it is always going to be in positive feedback? So the this phase detector is one module in your overall loop. You can configure the other elements such that even with a positive slope, you are able to get a negative feedback system.
Okay, but in earlier scenarios, we kind of preferred the lock point where we have decreasing monotonic.
Not necessarily. We are okay. It's not necessary that your KPD value has to be either positive or negative. It has to be, if it is positive, it has to be positive throughout the range. If it is negative, it has to be negative throughout the range. Right? Whatever is the behavior of the phase detector, be it KPD positive or negative, we make sure it has the same polarity throughout. And then you will configure the rest of the elements to match this behavior so that the whole loop is in negative feedback.
It should not alter between the positive feedback scenario to negative.
Yes. It should not switch between the two, right? Then you have a bigger problem. Now that said, let's say you had all the other elements in your loop also having a positive behavior, right? So your KPD is positive, every other element small signal gain is also positive, right? What is a quick solution that you can recommend? You understood the question, right? So I'll repeat the question once more. Let's say you are taking a generic negative feedback system, right? And let's say it had 3 elements, and this has some shape like this, right? Now, when you are looking at the loop's characteristic, this is where you will break the loop and then go around and check. Let's say all of these had a positive small signal gain, which means if I increased the signal here and I go around, I'll see an increase here, right? And let's say I cannot change the characteristics of any of these elements, right? And this is your phase detector, because that is the one that is detecting the error. What is a quick solution that you can give? You can simply switch the inputs to the phase detector. Instead of, so you have your in1 and in2 signals. Within the phase detector, let's say this was your in1, this was your in2, and the way how we have measured phase error is the delay between in1 and in2. If in2 is the delayed version, then phase error is positive, right? I can simply switch how I connect the inputs to this. This can be the reference signal, and this can be your feedback signal can go to in1. Suddenly, whatever was detected as a positive phase error becomes a negative phase error, right? And the characteristic from here to here, without changing the PD characteristics, I can have an inversion effect, right? So, given the characteristic, it is always possible to configure the loop in negative feedback. Okay. All right. Any other questions on this? If not, here we have 1 minute left. So I'll just introduce you to the next phase detector. So the next phase detector is called as the phase frequency detector. Right? And the motivation behind this detector is as follows. We saw that when we worked with the XOR PD, the output characteristic seemed to be a function of the duty cycle of the signal, right? Similarly, even for this SR latch PD, there is, looking at it, you can easily suspect that the duty cycle of the signals can potentially affect the characteristics, right? All of this is happening because you are sensitive to the levels of the signal, right? Whereas all that we want to detect is the distance between the two rising edges. So we need to use some edge trigger device such that we can focus only on the rising edges and not at the actual levels, so that we don't become sensitive to the falling edges, right? So this is a key idea behind the phase frequency detector, or a PFD. The moment I say I am interested in detecting rising edges, what is the element that comes to your mind? A flip-flop, right? So I can have a flip-flop. Right? The clock has to be the first input in1. Now I'll take another flip-flop where this clock is the second input into. Right? I want the output to go high whenever there is a rising edge in in1 and in2. That means, let's say I made a connection like this, and I'm going to call this signal as my up, this signal as my down. Does it look okay? Does it have any problem? After the very first rising edge, right, your up and down has gone high. Now this system is not sensitive to any further rising edges because the input is always pulled to high, right? So what can we do? I need to have a reset signal, right? Every time my up and down has gone high, I need to reset it. So I I directly use that logic, right? When both up and down have gone high, which means the rising edge in one has come, the rising edge in two has also come, right? The delta t that needs to be measured has already occurred. So after both in one and in two have gone high, corresponding to that, both up and down have gone high, I can simply AND these two, generate a reset, and then connect it as the reset signal here. There is no bubble here, it's a direct AND gate. Okay, and this is your PFD or a phase frequency detector. That's it. Such a simple circuit, right? We started with plain logic and we were able to get to the circuit. So we'll start analyzing the circuit from the next class onwards. So as a homework, you can try out how the waveforms will look like. So let's say in one, into, up, down. You can call this signal as your reset signal, and you can assume that this AND gate has a delay T reset. This will make it easier for you to sketch the waveforms. So you plot in one, into, up, down, and the reset signal. Try it out for the case where the phase error is slightly greater than 0. Okay, so we can stop the class here. Thank you.